Hello everyone, I am Tessellating Hexagons, and yesterday was the second Super Saturday of Eurovision 2018 where 5 more countries revealed their songs for Eurovision. Technically 6, but Azerbaijan was after the dateline and I'm not going to do 6 songs in one day, okay? So Azerbaijan can wait until tomorrow. But we're not talking about Azerbaijan for the moment, we are talking about Finland. Now, there's been plenty of buzz about the Finnish national selection this year, Uuden musiikin kilpailu, because unlike previous years, it's now just 3 songs and they're all by the same artist. So it was announced earlier this, well, I would say earlier this Eurovision season, like quite early last year, that Finland would be represented by Saara Aalto, famous for taking part in the national selection for Finland many times and also coming second in the UK edition of the X Factor. So immediately, she's already got a fair fan base because Eurovision people know who she is and she's popular in other countries, and also I think she was like a judge or a coach on some Finnish show, like either the Finnish X Factor or The Voice of Finland or something like that. I don't know. Point is, you know her name, most likely. And of the 3 songs that were written for her national selection, the public have voted for Monsters, which is presented entirely in English, music and lyrics by Saara Aalto herself, plus Joy and Linnea Dibb, and Kai Fitzgerald, who was in Busted, I think? He's from a boy band, which kind of random alongside the Deb crew, but whatever. It's a writing team that we know can write songs with a song that we know has been written. Haha, humour. Anyway, what were my first impressions of this song? Well, that depends. I've quite consciously just been avoiding following UMK at all for exactly this reason this year. Am I going to be allowed to speak my mind about this entry like I do with literally every entry? Or will a certain corner of the fandom start crying and screaming and booing and shouting, "Yeah, slay, queen!" to drown me out the moment I deliver anything other than glittering praise? Because, well, let's just rip this plaster off right now. I wasn't especially moved by any of Saara's songs from UMK this year, based on the clips I heard on Eurovision.tv, and hearing Monsters in full really hasn't changed that. It's okay, I don't hate any of the songs, they all seem like decent bops, I'm not going to deny that, I'm not trying to be bitter and deliberately contrarian, but I'm not moved to tears, I'm not electrified with excitement, it's a decent song, but it's not in my top 5 at the moment, and you're going to have to live with that. Still, I'm not blind to what makes this song good, so let's take a walk through the points that you might like, and see what comes out. First of all, before anything else, you can't really talk about Saara Aalto without talking about her experience and her live vocals. I think her UMK performance wasn't the best representation of this song, but as far as I can tell, that was more down to technological factors and audio balancing, so I'll overlook that quite willingly, especially because I want to highlight her capacity for the long, big, dramatic notes, which this song was written to be full of with the express intent of playing directly into her talents, which is entirely fair enough. In that regard, she's excellent, even when battling against weirdly adjusted microphones and whatnot. What I can't criticise the live performance for, though, is the staging. Granted, it bordered on the excessive and the gratuitous, though that is Saara's general aesthetic, you know, much like Krista Siegfried's, she uses the philosophy of more is more, which is fair enough, more is actually more. But what I'd like to focus on especially is the colour palette in general. A lot of black, but with bright neon stripes. Not too many, but not too few. Not too thick, but not too thin. It was very striking indeed, very memorable, and it's something that I can really get behind. All the other fluff I can sort of take or leave, but that visual identity, those bright stripes on a dark background, that is what's going to stick with me from this one, especially if they keep it for Eurovision, bearing in mind what a big deal they made out of the outfits, and obviously the colour scheme played into her outfit for this song as well, so On a musical level, meanwhile, I really like the, I don't really know what you'd call it, the counter melody, the deuteragonist channel, whatever it is that the not really glockenspiel does in this song. That, I like that. It's sort of like a reverse of Moldova singing their trumpet hook at the end of their song. This is the song's way of teaching you to remember the melody of the vocals rather than the vocals teaching you the melody of the melody. And that just sort of brings me back to the point that's sort of been recurring just under the surface of this entire section of the review. This song's biggest asset, far and away, is that it's engineered to be as memorable of a spectacle as possible, and I think in that regard it absolutely succeeds. Visually, aurally, live, everything works together to cram this song as far into your consciousness as it'll go, to make sure it will stay there, to make sure that you don't forget about it, which is clever, and it's not an easy thing to do well, so I will give credit where it's due. This is well composed. However, this song just like every other song in the known universe, does have flaws. Accept that or leave now, you won't like what else I have to say. I really don't have the energy to be arguing the toss with people in the comments who just came to this video to be offended rather than to hear someone else's opinions, so if you want to hear what I think about the song honestly, stick around. If you're just here for praise and platitudes, you might as well just go. So let's come back to the live performance at Uuden Musiikinkilpailu. Once again, I will bring up that she was having to battle against the technology, and so I won't hold that against her on the whole, but she did seem a bit pitchy on the shorter high notes. Longer high notes she can absolutely nail, that is one of her talents and no one can dispute that, but the shorter, quicker, brief high notes did seem a bit more hit and miss, but only by a margin that like a technically proficient judge would notice, I suppose, so I noticed it as someone who reviews these songs on a regular basis. I think a lot of people wouldn't notice it, or they would just sort of blend it in with the rest of the song and it wouldn't really bother them that much, but I feel as though like a singing teacher or someone else who's used to this sort of thing would pick her up on it just to say, you're good but you could be better, rather than saying, oh this is absolutely a bad thing, oh no you failed just because of one tiny mistake. Short answer, the public won't care, the juries might. Also, from that live performance, for all I've said of the colour scheme, I do think that this song does run the risk of having overproduced and desperate-looking staging in Lisbon. Now, I've worded that very carefully. This isn't Saara's fault. It would, hypothetically, be the fault of an over-enthusiastic stage director doing all they can to try and sell the song as hard as possible, and it coming off the wrong way. That might not happen. But if they try and make the UMK staging any bigger, they scale it up for the stage in Lisbon, that's probably how it will come across to people who aren't accustomed to Saara's general style. And for that matter, there's a real chance that her staging in general might just be designed specifically to hyper-appeal to her fanbase at the expense and exclusion of everyone else. If they go too wacky and too stylized, people just tuning in for the first time could well be tempted to write it off as the funny foreigner pretending to be a pop star, because sadly there are people in my country who do think like that, which is tragic and racist and I don't even want to think about it. Or they might view it as something for someone else's demographic, I'm not part of this in-group so it's not worth my time. Again, there are people who think like that. People may feel put off is basically what I'm saying here, but the big central theme is that it might. I'm hypothesizing. But, to my own credit, I'm basing this on probability. It's not like I'm just picking random concerns out of thin air just to try and bring your favourite song down. I'm basing this on what I see as being probable, so my concerns aren't without credibility here. Right then, though, scores out of 10. I'll just keep talking as if there are still people watching, even though I'm sure most people have abandoned ship at this point because I've offended them by saying anything other than, oh, it's perfect, yes, queen. To me, personally, in my personal experience, in my opinion, whatever it takes for you to understand that this is just my thoughts here, this song is a 7. I won't deny, I feel like I should like it more. I feel like I'm this close to enjoying it with no strings attached, but there's something missing in there for my experience, and I'm not sure what that is. It could well be that this is another situation like Cyprus, where it's best enjoyed if you listen to it without thinking, and I find that difficult to do, as I've already discussed, so enjoying it fully doesn't come very easily to me. Whatever the reason, I find this to be a decent bop, but not much else besides, I'm afraid. As for the technical score, I'm sure the one Saara Aalto superfan who's still in the audience at the moment is clamouring and screaming that I at least give her a perfect score in something, but no, 8. What this song does, it does very well. It knows its audience, it knows how to appeal, it knows how to take command and direct attention, it knows how to be memorable, but it still feels lacking to me. It doesn't help that there's something of a sizable gap between the studio version and the live performance in terms of quality, given how vocals are used as both a means of performing the lyrics and as an instrument in their own right, which doesn't really come across anywhere near as well live, but that may have been due to the technology, it's sort of difficult to tell. Still, even if it's not a problem with the technology, it's still something that will almost definitely be improved upon by the time the contest happens, but the song at the moment is more underwhelming than the superfans are willing to give it credit for at the moment, and at the moment, the here and now, that's all I have to judge on, so that's what I'm judging it on, which I think is a bit more fair than people are going to give me credit for. Still though, is this at least a step in the right direction for Finland? Barely. I was very tempted to call this a neutral step, because what the show loses by having only one artist participate, it gains in kind by being able to put all of its focus into making that single artist shine, because usually Uuden Musiikinkilpailu is 9 or 10 different artists with different songs. In this case, it's just one artist with 3 songs that are all the same person. In a way, it gives the voting public less choice, but also more choice over what to send to Eurovision. My reason for calling it an improvement, then, is because of their choice of artist predominantly. It generated so much more hype for UMK than the show usually gets, as well as that notion that all 3 songs are intensively workshopped with Saara personally to make sure they all suit her as best they can, and with the help of several different teams of Eurovision acclaimed writers as well. There was Thomas Gearson, obviously there's the Deb people, and there was another group that I didn't really pay any attention to because I didn't really follow the national finals. It's an intensive process, and I won't let that go unappreciated. Now though, will Finland qualify? Because Finland's in that symbiotic relationship with Cyprus, where one of them always qualifies, but never both and never neither. So, will Finland make it at the expense of Cyprus? This could be a year where they both make it, to be honest, but if it were anyone other than Saara at the helm, I would say this could go either way, but given, well, everything about Saara and the song and her fans, I would say this is a healthily safe bet to make it into the final. I would still say to keep your mind open though. I could imagine this ending up almost anywhere in the final when all's said and done, depending on the mood on the night, plus her performance, plus the specific individuals voting in the show, plus a number of other factors. If you're a superfan of hers, don't let yourself be blinded by the fact that you idolise her, and everyone else, try not to let the superfan's smothering passion ruin the experience for you. Conclusion, if you like the song, that's fine. If you don't like the song, that's also fine. Now please do not start any fights over it. People are allowed to not like this song, but also you can like this song without going crazy over it. Just be kind, please. And so, to Saara and the entire Finnish delegation, I have been and will continue to be Tessellating Hexagons, and I wish you the very best of luck. And so we'll see if your strategy has paid off when you get to Lisbon. See you there and then. Good luck.